Now we come to a very important chapter on strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat. And issue here is how to exploit the profile of strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat. Now, this chapter is nested in between the other performance consequences. But you'll find again, right, the organizing strategy provide clear evidence that insight to SWOT comes about through strategic planning processes. Now, first of all, I would like to go in some detail on the general principles about strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat. And you will find that when companies start to have a strategic planning process and looking and exploring and having meetings and discussion, regular meetings, now do not imagine it to be a 1 week thing. I think it's far more than that. It is, the planning should be incorporated into the company as part of its activity, right? As part of its main operations. Now, in other words, you should explore. And initially, when you first start, of course, you have a formal meeting, you have the processes in place to discover, and you find that company discover best what their weaknesses are through this activity of planning and discussion and review. Then, of course, there is the second part is the strength. First weaknesses, then knowing the strength is correlative. Strength, weaknesses first, and then knowing weaknesses, then start looking to explore where we are strong, where we are strength. Strength and weaknesses are the beginning stages, and of course you find that in most companies, right, you can do it the other way around, the strength and weaknesses. But then you find that for the companies in ASEAN region, they first discovered that they review weaknesses far more than they review strength. Then of course you have opportunities, and finally threat. So threat, because it's externally oriented, external threat, is very hard to figure that out through the planning process. Interestingly, so the order of insight into SWOT, SWOT comprises of 4 variables: strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat. That is really firstly on weaknesses, then strength, opportunity, and threat. So threat is the least known through planning processes. From planning, because threat comes from external.
This means to say that from the research, weaknesses are known best, and then strength followed by opportunity and threats to the company.
And one of the best ways, I believe, through my 30 years as academic, right, I would say that perhaps the best way to approach SWOT is to analyze the worst managed corporations who had one time been great corporations. For example, Kodak versus Fuji.
In analysis, you just focus on the data, information, and articles, whatever that is available on the internet. The key really is to practice the ability to extract strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat.
And we should look at ASEAN research in light of this case, Kodak versus Fuji. As you know, right? But first of all, let us review the findings from the research. Then we apply it to frame it within the context of Kodak versus Fuji. First of all, SWOT insights are more likely to emerge through a process of planning that is formal, there's regular, there's analytical, and there's systematic.
In earlier part 1 of the book, you studied the fact that there are attributes to the strategy process, and you find that these attributes are important because they enhance the gaining of insight on strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat.
Again, I believe these are timeless variables that will emerge. Even you do research now, you do research later on, that these are important aspects of the planning process systems. Then we have that of involvement. Involvement, again, of CEO and board directors are very important for SWOT insights to emerge. you look at the chart, at the slide, then I would, explain further on the slide itself.
What is interesting is the pattern of interconnections I found in the empirical research, and you find that strength is emerged more clearly in a board with directors and CEO involved, whereas opportunity and threat are quite different. As you further have to involve staff, the production workers and the clerical staff.
And of course, there is also that orienting senior management towards strategy is again important for insight to SWOT to emerge. We use the same approach. I will have a look at the slide and I'll discuss in detail later.
The results here are very interesting and encouraging. That the pattern that is really consistent, that all the three orientation variables are interconnected with strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat.
And of course, finally, we have evidence to show very clear that a wide range of benefits are gained, right? Organizational benefit when there are insights into SWOT, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat vis-a-vis the organization.
What is most significant in this interrelationship between SWOT and organizational benefit is that timely strategy. The moment you have insight into strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat, you are able then to implement timely strategies.
This is all the findings. So in other words, we are really saying, right, comparing Kodak versus Fuji, right, that Kodak was actually the innovations in the digital camera industry. Kodak owned the patent to it in the first instance. They didn't want to exploit it. And of course I can go into detail, but I would say that there's a host of factors why Kodak died compared to Fuji, and Fuji survived and now is thriving in the industry. Why is that so? What can SWOT explain that? That is the focus of our research, of applying SWOT to real world. And you find when you look at this, the Kodak contrasting with Fuji, there's a lot of material on the internet now because it's an old case study.
Do not forget in the analysis to remember the time period. That means they should be compared within the same period, the same time frame on SWOT.
But then we want to look at it from a perspective of strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat. And the theme really is, and I'll explain the theme to you, using the SWOT framework to explain why Kodak died. It actually went vamoose. It no longer exists, Kodak. And why Fuji rises and still is strong in the industry.
Here I use the word died figuratively, meaning to say that Kodak went bankrupt. And yet you find Fuji in the same industry product market sector, it roses. And now of course it's very different company now, Fuji.
That is the main point. In other words, using SWOT, what were the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunity, what are the threat, using Kodak, and how the response to these elements. And had it identified the problem with a lot of companies, really big companies, really they know what are their threats, or they know their strength, and they kept on emphasizing on the strength without looking at correlatively the weaknesses. In the case of Kodak, I believe it is they didn't have a multidisciplinary team. They have chemists. The focus was on this discipline of chemistry. They were not into IT, into digital, into electronics. So that divide, I think, ultimately, led to the demise of Kodak. Right? They had strength, yes, very strongly, but then the technology has started shifting and started to change. And I said to you, in the real world, right? Change is continuous. Everybody's seeking for new patent, new technology, new ideas to solve current problem that their company are facing. For example, Kodak has been in the camera for too long, maybe perhaps they're too entrenched. Right, anyway, I'll leave it to you to explore further and then to work on it and to explain Kodak versus Fuji. How Fuji and Fuji being Japanese, and Japanese companies are very much Sun Tzu oriented and managed by Eastern management in terms, in respect of strategy. Thank you.